This is strengthen question number 18. So they're asking us what most strengthens the columnist reasoning. So we're not focusing in on anything specific here. We're looking at something a little bit more broad. So our columnist says much of North America and Western Europe is more heavily forested and has less acid rain and better air quality now than 5 decades ago. So we're talking about, these two different regions. We're talking about North America and Western Europe. We've got more trees. we're liking that much. So we got a lot of trees. We have less acid rain and better air quality. So I probably would say, okay, we got more trees, which is great. We are not having this really scary acid rain, less of that, coming from the sky. That's, that's good. And then, air quality, absolutely excellent. We love good air. So this is all over this past like 5 decades that, these things are happening. And so we want to keep in track, if they're giving us a time period of 5 years, we're really going to want to pay attention, like what would have changed from that point to this point. All these things are getting better over a period of time. Though this may be due largely to policies advocated by environmentalists, so, you know, they're giving a little concession here. It nonetheless lends credibility to the claims of people who reject predictions of imminent ecological doom and argue that environmental policies that excessively restrict the use of natural resources may diminish the wealth necessary to adopt and sustain the policies that brought about these improvements. So it's a lot of science speak, but they're basically saying, okay, well, this is what we notice. It's possible that, all these things improve the environment because environmentalists are, advocating for all these policies. But, the fact that all of these things are happening, um, they're basically what our author wants to really leave us with is this idea that these events are lending credibility. That's the big key here. That's what we're trying to accomplish with that. And these people, it's lending credibility to certain claims. And they're saying that, like, oh, ecological doom predictions, they're basically saying, okay, the earth is not ending, the earth is fine. There's no such thing as global warming. And these people also argue that these all these different advocacy policies mentioned before are restrictive. They're going to make us less wealthy. Um, and so we're trying to think about, how might this lend credibility to our environmentalists? Or sorry, lend credibility to all these people who have these criticisms. That's what we're trying to strengthen here. And so the what makes this question hard is the fact that we're trying to really identify what is our job here. What exactly are we strengthening? And so, it was a lot of work to kind of work that out. And we're just going to kind of see like what's actually going to support this idea that it lends credibility. A, nations sustain their wealth largely through industrial use of natural resources found within their boundaries. So, they're talking about, it might diminish the wealth necessary. So there's policies in place. If nations sustain their wealth because of using these resources, um, that could be something that lends credibility, potentially. Um, so we can kind of keep that and look and see if there's any other answer choices that we might like. B, the more advanced the technology is used in a nation's industries, the greater it is that nation's ability to devote a portion of its resources to social programs. That's so random. C, a majority of ecological disasters arise from causes that are beyond human control. So there's a couple reasons why this is wrong. So we don't talk about a majority of ecological disasters. We also know that in general, the test makers are pretty concerned with the environment, which is why they bring this up. Um, but we causes beyond human control. Only thing we're talking about here is within human control, and we're talking about policies. We're talking about things that like we have made better. We're not talking about disasters or humans controlling things other than policy. D, if a compromise between the proponents of economic growth and the environmentalists had been enacted rather than the current policies. So already, we're not looking at a compromise rather than something else. This is one of the classic examples of when they're bringing in a comparison as a wrong answer. So if this compromise had been made rather than current policies, environment would have seen significantly less improvement. So we don't know that that would be true. We don't know if they would see significantly less improvement. And this is not going to really help support our claim that this, like, all these things lend credibility to the claims of these people. E, the concern demonstrated by a nation for health and integrity of its natural ecosystems lends to an increase in that nation's wealth. So this is good. So it's talking about a nation's wealth. Both of the answer choices that are left are talking about it. But they're saying, being concerned leads to a nation's wealth increasing. Our people who, our claims of people who reject ecological doom, they're saying that there is there's a lot of restrictions, and they're going to, if we continue to, use these policies, we're actually going to decrease our wealth. It might diminish the wealth necessary to adopt and sustain the policies. So, they're kind of like reneging on this. They're they're contradicting themselves. So we would go with A as our answer here.